So what if your biggest leadership failure isn't that you're doing too little,
Right.
but that you're actually doing too much for the very people who need to learn how to do it themselves?
That is the big counterintuitive idea we're really diving into today. It's this problem where organizations, they mistake all this activity.
Dizziness.
The busyness, exactly. The leader is always there, always fixing things, and they see that as capability.
But it's not. It's just coverage, not capacity.
Yeah.
That's the phrase from the sources that really stuck with me.
It's the perfect way to put it. And that confusion, it leads to what they call fragile growth.
Yeah, it looked good from the outside. You're hitting targets, things are moving.
But the whole system is brittle. It's built on one person, maybe two. And the moment that person takes a vacation
Or leaves.
or leaves, the whole thing just shatters. It's this quiet crisis of, untransferred wisdom.
It becomes a habit, right? This sort of performance rescue.
It totally does. It's a cultural habit. A problem comes up, and the leader just swoops in because, frankly, it's faster.
It feels efficient in the moment.
In the moment, sure. But every time they do that, they are robbing their team of a chance to learn, to grow, to actually build that competence themselves.
So we celebrate this hero leader, the one who can do everything, but we're completely missing the massive bottleneck they're creating.
Mm-hmm.
So our mission in this deep dive is to lay out a blueprint, a way to move from that hero model to, well, a multiplication model.
And the sources give us a really practical, repeatable system for that. It's a simple framework: trust, teach, multiply.
Right. And we're going to unpack this not as just some nice idea, but as an actual workflow.
A workflow to move knowledge, judgment, wisdom, all the important stuff, from the leader's head into competent, reliable hands. This is probably the single biggest lever for building a resilient team.
Okay, let's start with the pain. When you have all that competence stuck at the top, what are the tactical problems you see day to day?
Oh, they start small and then they spiral fast. The first thing is that your best person, maybe it's you, becomes totally irreplaceable.
I'm completely exhausted.
Completely. Their vacation inbox is a ticking time bomb. And then second, every single decision of any importance gets stuck. It bottlenecks right at the top.
It just paralyzes the whole organization.
It does. And new ideas, new projects, they just stall because there's no one competent enough to actually execute them without constant hand-holding.
Yeah, I love that image from the sources.
Yeah.
The messy office where all the best ideas are just scribbled in the founder's private notebook.
And if that notebook walks out the door?
So does all the institutional memory. It's gone.
And that's more dangerous now than ever. I mean, the sources really stress this. The half-life of a technical skill is shrinking.
So you have to be able to learn and transfer knowledge fast.
If you can't, you fall behind. Instantly.
And this ties into what younger generations expect from a leader, doesn't it?
Absolutely. They're not looking for a boss who just doles out tasks. They want coaching. They want real responsibility.
The old sink or swim model.
It just repels them. It doesn't just fail to build people up. It actually pushes your best talent away. They'll go somewhere they can actually grow.
So the goal here, the real shift, is not just delegating tasks.
No, not at all. It's about transferring wisdom, judgment, and that adaptive skill. You can't delegate judgment. You have to build it intentionally.
Okay, so how do we do that? How do we build it without having to constantly step in and rescue them? That brings us to the framework.
The trust, teach, multiply loop. This is how you dismantle the bottleneck.
And it starts with trust.
It has to start with trust. You have to name the competency you want to transfer. You set really clear expectations. And this is the critical part. You give them permission to learn publicly.
Permission to learn publicly. You mean permission to fail safely.
Exactly. It's a psychological safety net. If someone knows that making a mistake isn't a career-ending move, they're willing to practice. They're willing to try.
Without that, they just wait for the rescue.
Every single time.
Okay, so once you've established that trust, that safety, then you move to teach.
Right. And teaching is not a one-off lecture. It's a layered process.
Yeah.
You model, you coach, and you correct.
So you show them first.
First, you demonstrate it. You walk them through the why behind each step. Then, and this is key, you step back and you let them do it, but with you there to guide them. That's the coaching part.
And then you debrief.
Immediately. You correct mistakes right away. It's a tight, iterative loop.
Which leads to the end goal, multiply.
Multiply. This is where you release ownership. You move from it being a shared responsibility to it being their owned execution.
But the timing here seems tricky.
It's everything. You have to release ownership only when they consistently meet objective criteria. Release too soon, you set them up for failure. Release too late.
You've created dependency.
Exactly. You haven't multiplied anything. You've just created a codependent relationship.
Okay, let's get specific on the how.
Hmm.
What are some of the teaching methods that work for this deep kind of skill transfer?
Well, it depends on the skill. For something with a lot of complex steps, like running a big meeting or a technical process,
Right.
modeling or shadowing is best. The learner is right there beside you, seeing not just the what, but the why behind your in-the-moment decisions.
And what about for really deep expertise? Things that take a long time to learn.
That's where you need a more structured apprenticeship, where they take on bigger and bigger pieces over months. But honestly, the most powerful tool for building actual judgment is project-based leadership.
So you give them a real project, not a case study.
A real consequential project, but you provide scaffolding, a safety net. That's what builds true ownership faster than anything.
What about for senior leaders? People who already know the basics but need to get better at, say, strategic thinking.
Yeah.
You can't really model that in the same way.
For them, you use Socratic coaching. So instead of giving answers, you just ask questions.
Probing questions.
What assumptions are you making here? What's the biggest risk you see? You force them to build and articulate their own decision-making process out loud.
That sounds incredibly powerful, but it also takes a lot of discipline from the leader to not just jump in with the answer.
It does, and that's where leaders often go wrong, even when they have the best intentions.
What are the big mistakes?
The sources point to two. The first is just overloading the learner. Dumping a 300-page manual on someone's desk is not skill transfer.
It's just dumping.
It's just dumping. You have to break the skill into tiny pieces. The second mistake is what we just talked about, the timing of the release. Releasing too early out of frustration or too late out of fear.
Both of which lead to failure. So if timing is that important, we need something better than a gut feeling.
We do.
And that leads us to maybe the most actionable part of this whole deep dive, the 7-step skill transfer plan. This is the template you can literally use tomorrow.
Right. And the first step is just to get clear. Identify the skill and the outcomes. Don't just say, run the meeting.
Be more specific.
Be incredibly specific. The outcome is, budget proposals are reviewed and signed off 10 days before the deadline with less than a 5% error rate. That's an outcome.
Then you map out the sub-skills, pick a learner, set a timeline. That's all pretty standard project management. But step 5 seems like the real game changer. Set objective readiness criteria.
This is the step that kills the dependency. This is where you define what ready actually looks like. It's not a feeling.
So it's not, I think they're ready.
No, it's, they have successfully run this process 3 times in a row without my help. Or, and this is my favorite, they can successfully teach the core steps to somebody else.
If you can teach it, you own it. That's powerful.
It's the ultimate proof of mastery.
Okay, and then step 6 is the engine that drives this whole thing, the feedback and correction loop.
And it has to be immediate, not in the annual review. We're talking short 15-minute debriefs right after their practice.
And the format is important too, right?
Very. You use a simple what went well and what to try next time structure. It's about correcting the process, not criticizing the person. It keeps that psychological safety intact.
Which brings us to the final step, the whole point of this.
Yeah.
Step 7, release and multiply.
You hand over full ownership, but with one condition. The multiplication mandate.
You require them to train someone else.
Within 90 days, it reframes their role immediately. They're not just a recipient of knowledge anymore. Now they're a steward of it.
This moves us perfectly into how we should measure all this. We have to stop measuring busyness.
And start measuring readiness, competence.
So what are those new metrics?
Well, you track readiness indicators, things like supervised completion rates, error rates, and even the learner's own self-assessed confidence. But the ultimate metric, the one that proves the system is working, is the multiplication indicator.
The number of new people trained by the new owner.
Within that 90-day window. That's your proof.
The sources have these great examples of this in action. The software team that cut their bug rate by 40%.
And that wasn't even the biggest win. The senior leaders got back 20% of their time to actually think strategically because they weren't constantly putting out fires.
Or the nonprofit example where they trained volunteers to run the tech for their services.
And within just a few months, they were able to host simultaneous events. They literally doubled their impact because they broke the bottleneck of relying on one single expert.
It just shows what's possible when you get intentional about this. Okay, let's zoom out. Let's talk about the deeper historical foundation for all of this. This is where we move from instruction to what the sources call impartation.
Yeah, impartation is about the whole person. It's transferring not just knowledge and skill, but wisdom, spiritual maturity, and responsibility.
You see this in the story of Moses and Joshua. Moses didn't cling to his leadership.
No, he spent decades preparing his successor. Joshua learned through what they call observation before authority. He was just there, in the tent of meeting. He saw what leadership looked like up close, long before he ever had the authority himself.
He saw the how and the why before he had to carry the what.
Exactly. It's a masterclass in succession planning.
And then, of course, there's the ultimate model, Jesus and the disciples. He was focused entirely on multiplication, not his own personal performance.
And his method aligns perfectly with modern adult learning theory. It's a 5-step rhythm.
Teach, show, send, correct, empower.
That's it. He taught them, she showed them how, he sent them out to try it themselves.
The ownership moment.
Then he corrected their mistakes when they came back, and then empowered them for the next bigger challenge, and he never, ever overloaded them.
That concept of delayed disclosure was fascinating. When he says, I have much more to say to you, more than you can now bear.
He was sequencing the transfer based entirely on their readiness, not his desire to just dump information. It's brilliant.
And you see the same pattern with Paul and Timothy. Paul's influence multiplied because his protégés were the ones carrying the mission forward when he was in prison.
The system was resilient because the wisdom had been truly transferred. It wasn't dependent on him being physically present.
So if we bring all this back to our organizations today, it really is a cultural shift.
It is.
We have to move away from this idea of the celebrity leader, the one who is rewarded for being the hero.
For being irreplaceable.
And move toward being a stewarding leader, someone who sees being replaceable as the ultimate goal.
That's the culture that builds true resilience, true capacity. The mission becomes bigger than any one person.
I think that's a perfect summary. Real leadership is proven by what keeps going competently after you're gone. And the antidote to all the fragility and exhaustion is this intentional, measured system of transfer.
Moving people from just watching to practicing to true ownership.
Okay, so let's leave our listeners with a final thought to chew on.
All right, here's a thought experiment. Pick one critical thing, one high-leverage competency that right now lives only with you, that you're the bottleneck for. Now imagine it's 90 days from now, and at least 2 other people on your team can do that exact thing just as well as you can, maybe even better, without any of your help.
What would that unlock? For you, for them, for the whole organization, what would that multiply in your capacity?
That's the future you can build.
And our challenge to you is to start this week, pick that one responsibility, and just draft the first few steps of that 7-step skill transfer plan. Start small. Start with trust and teach, and just see what begins to multiply.